Hi, my name's Celyn and welcome back to my channel. So if you don't know me, I'm Celyn and I do a bunch of art stuff and you might know me from TikTok. So last week on my YouTube channel, I actually started a new series where I'm going to be trying art projects or art mediums that I was really bad at school. And last week I actually tried clay for the first time again, and the project I ended up looking really quite good. I was really proud of it and I'm very excited to do more clay. So if you guys want to see more clay, let me know. But this week we are going to be trying lino printing. How do I explain it? Lino printing is basically like a piece of rubber and you use a tool to cut out of it and then you apply ink to it and you can print it and it should make a design, basically. And we had to do this at school, but we had to like cut multiple layers out and layer different colors to make one piece of art. But I'm gonna be doing a simpler thing today. So you may or may not know, but I actually have a small business that's called Pebbles by Celyn. I sell rocks on there, stickers on there. I set it up in like January of 2020 because people on TikTok loved my work and wanted to buy my work, which was so sweet. I've been wanting a stamp for my business for ages and I've not like picked a design or anything, and I was like, hey, why don't I try and make a stamp using lino? This could go so bad. It could go really bad. I haven't done it since probably, it must be at least 7 years. Oh, I'm getting old. And I was really bad at it. Like, I managed to make a piece, but it was ugly. It comes with a bunch of tools, so I don't really know what I'm doing, but let's just get started.
This could go so bad.
So here's the Lino kit that I ordered. I managed to get this off Amazon. I think it was only around £15, but it came with some supplies like this one that I've never used before. But all the other stuff I've used like the roller, and I've also used the ink before. It's actually the same ink that I used to use at school, but I ended up starting by pulling everything out of the box and just taking a closer look. Inside the box were these two pieces of lino. We used to use blue lino at school, so seeing these beige colored ones was so weird. The kit also came with 3 different cutters. When I was at school, we only used to have one option, so it's gonna be really cool experimenting with different ones to see what they do and stuff, but let's just get started. So before I grabbed my iPad, I actually went ahead and watched some YouTube tutorials just to get an idea of what I needed to do because it's been so long since I've done this. So the first thing that I needed to do was design the stamp. I kind of had an idea for what I wanted to do in my head, but I began by designing it on Procreate. I decided to do it straight onto Procreate because I knew that if I made any mistakes, it would be really easy to just fix it. For the design, I decided that I wanted the words thank you across the top, and I also wanted like one of my sticker designs or one of my little cute characters in the middle of the stamp. I thought about writing the words thank you myself using my own handwriting or whatever, but I decided to design it on Canva, and then I copied and pasted it into Procreate, and then I traced it because I knew this was going to be a lot faster than doing it myself. This bit was super satisfying. It ended up taking me a few tries for some of the letters, especially the Y. I don't know, it was just really difficult, but I ended up taking a little while over it. Oh my gosh, look how many tries it took me. I didn't bother filling in the letters because I knew that I was just going to use this as a stencil, but once I was done, it was finally time to pick what character I wanted in the middle. I had a few choices, but I decided to go with my little strawberry snail. So I went ahead and copied that onto my new canvas, and I ended up removing all the color just so that the outline was left a bit like a stamp already. Once I was happy with the design, I went ahead and printed it off in a bunch of different sizes so that I had a few options. I decided that the big one was too big, and I ended up picking the smallest one to be my stamp. So the next step was to trace the design, so I grabbed some tracing paper. I've had this in storage for so long and I just haven't used it. So I went ahead and placed the tracing paper over the top of my design, and then I grabbed a regular pencil and just started to trace it. I haven't done this in such a long time. This bit isn't the final product, so I wasn't too worried about making any mistakes. It's just gonna be like a template for the actual design, so I just went over it in my own time, wasn't too worried about it. But once I was finally done tracing the design, I flipped it over and placed it on top of my lino. So once again, I just traced the design. Basically, what's really cool about tracing paper, if you've never used it before, it like transfers the design over onto something else if you use graphite. I just think that's really cool. When I was a kid, that used to blow my mind. But at the moment, you can see that the text is backwards, but once I flip the design one more time and use it as an actual stamp, it'll be the right way around. So as you can see at this point, the design is done. So I grabbed some scissors and I started to cut it out just so that I had a smaller surface to work with. And now it's finally time to start making the stamp. So I actually went ahead and grabbed the smallest cutter out of the 3. And since it's been such a long time, I actually practiced a little bit at the top before getting into the main event. So I started off carefully by just doing the edges. So around the circle, I have no idea what I'm doing at this point. It's basically just trying to work out which bits I want to be inked and which bits I don't. It's really confusing. confusing. So I decided that I wanted the final stamp to have the thank you with ink on it, and I wanted the body of the snail to also be inked, but I wanted the strawberry element, like the actual strawberry, to not be inked. Very confusing. So currently at this point, I'm actually using the smallest cutter still because I'm trying to be careful and I'm still learning, and I don't know, I probably should have done a practice, but I was just going for it. I was just like, yeah, let's do it. This process ended up taking me a few hours. I probably should have gone with a slightly easier design, but it ended up working out okay in the end, especially for a first try, so keep watching. But anyway, I started to get the hang of it. I've seen a bunch of people on TikTok making things out of lino recently, and they make it look so easy, like their cuts are so nice. But anyway, as you can see here, I'm being brave, and I decided to swap for the slightly bigger cutter. I realized the one thing that I didn't do, someone commented this on one of my TikToks that I did recently, also cutting lino. I should have warmed the lino up first. So when we were at school, my teacher used to make us sit on the lino so that our bums would warm up the lino and make it softer, I suppose. But I completely forgot about this step. Silly me. So that's probably one of the contributing factors to why I found this so hard, and I kept getting the blade stuck. It obviously wasn't screwed into the handle tight enough. But having said that, I wasn't very good at this when I did warm up the lino at school, so you know. We used to have to layer the lino as well, so we used to have to try and make full-blown pieces of art using one piece of lino. This is actually really hard to explain, but we'd cut one layer and then we'd print it, and then we'd cut another layer and print it so that we'd have lots of layers. I can't really explain it. I don't know if you guys have ever done it, but you might have. But anyway, back to the video. At this point, I'm almost done. Yay! It ended up taking me about 4 hours of cutting off camera because I chose such a complicated little design. But once I was pretty happy with my cuts, it was time to test it for the first time using the ink that they included in the pack. So this ink isn't quite like what you use to write with. It's a lot thicker. It's quite like paint, I suppose. Normally, I'd apply this ink using a roller or a sponge roller, but I decided to use my paintbrush just to be a bit more precise. So as you can see, I applied it all over the text and all over the strawberry snail. I probably should have applied it all over the design so I could see where I made little mistakes. But anyway, I went for the first stamp. I was a little bit nervous, and I used this roller to like press the ink into the paper. This is what we used to do at school, but I actually watched a video recently where someone used that roller to apply the ink. But when I took the lino off to reveal the stamp, it was okay, but I didn't apply enough ink. So I did a few more tests to see how it was looking, and it ended up looking really cute. There were a few errors, I must admit. But as you can see, I did a few tests. Some of them had too much ink, some of them had too little ink. I did a few different cuts in some of them, but eventually I was pretty happy with what I'd made. So the next step was to cut out the stamp in the shape of a circle so that I didn't have those edges getting inked when I use it as a proper stamp, if that makes sense. So here it is, looking round, sort of, a little bit wonky, but it's not too bad. I then went ahead and grabbed an ink pad because I wanted to test how the stamp worked with this ink as well as the ink that came in the pack. I suppose I just wanted to see how well it worked with the ink pad because I'm probably going to be using ink pads while I'm packaging my parcels because it's a lot faster. And as you can see, the results aren't perfect, but I much prefer it to like the liquid ink. But once I was finally happy with my stamp, I went ahead and grabbed these cubes that I actually used for my Minecraft series over on TikTok. I gathered 9 cubes all together, and I ended up using hot glue to stick them together, and I was doing this so that I had like a backing for the back of the stamp. This was just an idea. I've never done this before. I was making it all up as I went along. So at this point, I didn't really know if it was going to work, but I had my shape, and I decided that I wanted to tidy it up a little bit, so I grabbed some pink foam and I cut a square out of the pink foam. I haven't seen anyone else do this, but I'm sure I'm not the first person to come up with this idea, but I ended up gluing the foam to the one side of the cube. I then grabbed the stamp and I stamped the design onto the foam. This is just so that I'd be able to recognize the stamp if it was like in a cluttered drawer and I was looking for it, a bit like a label. But as you can see, the stamp didn't turn out that great on the foam, but that's totally fine because I can always try again. But I'm pretty happy with it for now. But then to finish up the stamp, I grabbed my glue gun and I stuck the stamp itself to the other side of the wooden cubes, and this is it done! It's not amazing, but I'm pretty happy with how it turned out considering this is my first stamp since I was like at school. I also feel like the overall result looks pretty good, but as you can see, I did the stamp again using the backing and it actually didn't print quite as well, so I think I need to change this, but for now, I think I'm pretty happy with it. And here's the final design! I'm really happy with how it turned out considering it does have a few flaws. So on the little strawberry on the back of it, I might have mentioned in my voiceover already, it's got a little chunk in it where I messed up a little bit, so the full strawberry isn't very clear on the final print. I just poked myself in the eye. So most of the strawberry is visible, but just that final edge is a bit skinny. So if I were to do this again, I'd try not to make that as skinny. I thought the T on thank you was going to be a fail, but it ended up working out a-okay. One thing that I have noticed is since sticking it onto the wooden blocks, I'm finding it harder to print the center, so I might end up taking it off and just using it with my hand, which is a little messy, but I don't know, maybe, I'm not sure, but I just love how it looks as a full-blown stamp. But if any of you guys have ever used Lino or tried to make a stamp using Lino before, and you have any tips on how I can make this print a little bit better, let me know. I might need a different ink pad, but if you have any tips, let me know down in the comments below. I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm learning. I'm really keen to do one of these again, so I'm probably going to do a smaller stamp just to like decorate things over on my TikTok, so keep an eye out for that. I'll put the link to my TikTok down in the comments below with all my other socials too. If you're interested, you can check out my Instagram, my Snapchat, and even my Twitter. But yeah, I'm super happy with how it turned out. I love it. I just think it's really cute, and I'm glad that I made it. I don't know how much I'm gonna use it, but anyway, it was a fun project, and I feel like I've improved since school, which is a good thing. 10 out of 10 would do again. But that's pretty much it for today's video. If you guys are new here, I'd love it if you could subscribe, and if you're watching the video and you're enjoying it, make sure to like as well, because it really helps me out. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to let me know down in the comments below, and if you have any suggestions for other videos that you'd like to see me do, also let me know down in the comments below, because I love to do what you guys want to see. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in next week's video. Bye! Brilliant.